All right, Unit 4, Lecture 4B. I was just talking about Gabriel Prosser, Nat Turner. Nat Turner had led a slave revolt also in the South in Virginia. Both occurred in Virginia. 55 whites were killed, hundreds of blacks died. Nat Turner is put to death, all right? These lead Southern legislatures to pass stricter fugitive slave laws and harsher slave codes. Slave codes are the laws that govern the lives of African-American slaves. So it really squashes completely the idea of abolition in the South and puts the Southerners on a more fearful footing and more opposed to Northern abolitionism. All right, the big thing driving, though, a wedge between North and South at this time is the admission of new states during the first half of the 19th century. Continually inflames sectional tensions and gives rise to the issue over whether new states would allow slavery or ban slavery. And the balance we're trying to keep, we keep having compromises in an effort to maintain balance in that Senate, especially to stop any anti-slave or pro-slave legislation from going through. In 1820, Henry Clay of Kentucky is going to propose the first major compromise, which is called the Missouri Compromise, and you have the little chart right up here. All right. Missouri wanted to enter the Union as a slave state, so we have to keep that balance. So Missouri's going to enter the Union as a slave state. Maine will enter as a free state, keeping the balance in the Senate. We'll have 12 each free and slave states. Missouri Compromise keeps the Senate even, as I said. It's also going to draw an east-west line along the 36th, 30th line of parallel through the Louisiana Purchase. And you can see that line. You want to remember the 3630 line. It bans slavery north of that line, all right? So the anti-slave forces actually get an advantage here because there's a lot more territory up there, okay? And that's all slavery banned. All right, soon after we get the Missouri Compromise, 1849, and you're going to remember this because the miners, you know, the 49ers, blah, blah, blah. California, we find gold. People flock to California. So California gets to apply for statehood long before anybody thought it would. And it wants to apply as a free state. This will threaten the balance in the Senate between free and slave states. It's going to upset sectional peace, which the Missouri Compromise has managed to kind of maintain for 30 years. All right, so Henry Clay, who is still around, all right, we remember him, the American system, the Missouri Compromise, now the Compromise of 1850. This is why we call Henry Clay the Great Compromiser. Gives us this other compromise, Compromise 1850, has several provisions or parts, all right, what it does. And you have to be very well aware of these, right? You have to know them for your first test. So California comes in as a free state. That's number one. Second, the territories of New Mexico and Utah are created with the provision for popular sovereignty, which I'll go into in a minute. So the new Southwestern territories acquired from Mexico would decide on their own whether they would permit slavery. Third, the slave trade, but not slavery itself, is banned in Washington, D.C., so you can't have slave markets in D.C. anymore. All right? And fourth, Congress passes a much stricter fugitive slave law, which makes it easier for slave catchers to capture and return runaway slaves and forces northern states to participate and return fugitive slaves. It's going to really be a thorn in the northern states' side because now they have to actively participate in slavery. They have to participate in returning runaway slaves. So it's going to increase a bit the hostility between North and South. And that's going to go even further in 1854 when Stephen Douglas, an Illinois Democrat, proposes the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Kansas-Nebraska Act. A bill is a proposed law, an act is a bill, which Congress has passed, all right, and signed into law. So an act is a law, all right. So Congress passed the Kansas-Nebraska Act in 1854, and it does three things. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to pick up in C so I can talk about that.